afraid our players would get wounded because of the, permit me, the hardness of the stadium. Are things like this not going to count against our boys?
Well, I want to say no. Some of our boys, let me just take it back to the Ajegule Palace. Some of them started playing their football in Ajegule. They've played in the worst of pitches. So playing on a bumpy pitch shouldn't make the difference. That's not the first time some of them will be playing at the Addis Ababa Stadium. I think Keshi should also de-emphasize talks about the nature of the pitch. Maybe it's a decoy. You know, coaches have a way of trying to make you focus elsewhere. But in all honesty, it's a do or break, a make or mar encounter which Nigeria must show stuff. We are the African champions, for crying out loud. We won the Nations Cup. We won the Mandela Challenge. We went to the Confederations Cup and we did excellently well, even though that we cannot be rated at par with the European countries like Spain and the rest of them. But Nigeria has put up spectacular performance. Stephen Keshi is yet to lose a competitive match since he took over as the coach of the Super Eagles against a relatively unknown coach in Sinet Bishaw, one-on-one, except for one of their players, Saladin Said Ahmed, who plies his trade in Belgium, and perhaps the man they should be missing today, talking about Geteni Kebede. One-on-one, we have established players. Individually, we're skillful. Most of our players are playing for top-flight teams in Europe, and even on the on home front, you know. So I think on paper, you will say, give it to Nigeria. And I think Keshi knows the die is scarce. He knows this is the only ticket that Nigeria needs. You know what football means? Great unifying factor, something that has kept us together. Our president, attending the AU meeting, took time off to see the Super Eagles. What other boost or ginger do you need for anybody to spell out the importance attached to winning the World Cup ticket for Nigeria? Okay,
Emeka, you know, we had a conversation just a few months after Keshi took over at the Super Eagles, and we were analyzing his chances and his prospects. How do we score Keshi so far?
Well, how do we score him? We score him excellent. Excellent not because he has not lost a match or he has not, Amma was talking of competitive game. Well, I don't know what he means by that because I think we lost in the Confederation Cup. So the competitive game. But all the same, I think that Kechi has been marvelous, has been wonderful. You see, why do I say this? There are some players that ordinarily, Nigerian coaches have been very, very timid. But Kechi now came and said, no, it's not business as usual. I will drop some players who either for reason of indiscipline or reason of whatever do not measure up to my set objective. And people cried and said, why do you leave them? Why don't you ignore that? And he has been achieving. In fact, people are now saying perhaps if Kechi can come and pick all the players, the usual ones who will pick their shirts up, just strolling into camp and so on, maybe he would have lost. He would have been sacked by now. But I think that he went for players and had a serious one-on-one. I was aware of one time that Keshi called the player and said, I talked to him personally and said, this thing you are doing it for myself as Keshi, you are doing it for yourself as a player, and you are doing it for the nation. So it's not a question of let Keshi fail, it is our collective failure or collective success. So I think that that's the kind of psychological standard Keshi can create to make the players to feel that this is their own thing. It's very, very important. I think Ferguson, for instance, talking of Manchester United, their manager, was highly successful because of the way he carried on with his players. So also Arsene Wenger. So also perhaps Mourinho, even though he has his own excessive moments and so on. So I would call Keshi excellent because he has done very well and he has shown other coaches, especially of Nigerian extraction, that it's not business as usual. You can pick your own boys and make something out of them.
Okay, Emma, let's go to the team list for today. Are there surprises?
Really, there are no surprises. I was in Calabar when we took on the Flames of Malawi. we have virtually the same set of players that started, and the rest, of course, on the bench. Vincent Eyama, the standing captain after the absence of Joseph Tambari Yobo, will be in goal, manning the sticks. We have Elderson Echejile playing from the left full-back position. Efe Ambrose is on the right full-back. And of course, Azubike Gweke and Obobona Godfrey will be playing from the central defense. Onazi plays from the seats in the midfield position defensively. Then you have Mikel playing playing forward from the midfield, and Oduamadi, and then of course Emenike Esther and Ahmed Musa from the flanks. That's just the starting lineup. It has not changed much, and perhaps during in the course of the program we expect him to effect changes depending on how he reads the game. That's just the team list remains what we saw in Calabar.
Emeka, you think this team list is ideal for the challenge before us today?
That's what you have. That's our best for now. You may not begin to talk of somebody was telling me Yobo may come back and say, look, don't let us go back again. Let's look forward. Yes, Yobo has tried for this country as captain. He has done so well. We need to really appreciate him and celebrate him. So also, I don't think that we should begin to look at those that would have, there's a saying in my place that a child that dies early is usually pointed out as the child that would have become the president of the world. But all the same, I think that the selection is okay. I know that just like what you saw in Calabar, you saw that fighting spirit. The boys seem to have really understood themselves. But before now, those Ogazi and this Onazi and the rest were not reckoned with. MNK, of course, the Cup of Nations exposed some of them and so on and so forth. But she made the selection that everybody was saying, who are these boys? And I think that by now they have really defined who they are. And I don't expect more changes like Ahmad said. Halftime will determine. If at halftime the Ethiopians are leading, God forbid, then there will be need to make some changes. But if at halftime Nigeria is leading 2-0, perhaps, as the saying goes, you don't change the winning team.
Okay, Emeka, I'd like to actually leave you, but before I do, I want to share this concern that a lot of Nigerians are sharing. And for those of you that have been into sports, into sports commentaries and sports analysis and sports marketing, you may know better than a lot of us. Why are Nigerians not watching this match on their television sets? What is actually the problem?
Okay, thank you very much. You have tried to pull me by the tail. But you know that modern football is business. It's pure business.
Mm-hmm.
It's pure business. There are no sentiments. Why we are not watching this match on our own station is because we have not really pulled ourselves out of the woods, and we have not really learned the art of sports marketing and rights acquisition. These are the problems. There's no match these days anywhere in the world, perhaps except in Nigeria, that we don't have the rights or the rights owner. So what you do is know the right owner, discuss with the right owner. The person bought that right for business. If he bought the right at $20 million, we bought it to make business, at least $25, $30 million. So you discuss with him. There are several levels of rights leasing. It could be that you go for 50-50. It could be that the person who has the right buys the airtime of the local station if you can't pay for the right. There are so many levels of discussion that can be done. But I do not think that we are steadfastly doing it. I don't want to say that some people are not doing their work, otherwise would be the enemy. But I think that we have not really, because if you have to watch it in pay television like Super Sports and so on, why not our own station? You see, so it's not much a sentiment that because it's Nigeria that is playing, Nigerian TVs like AIT should take it free. No, AIT has to do some business. But I understand really that there is an umbrella body that is supposed to be moving ahead of the rest of us, and that is the Broadcasting Organizations of Nigeria. think that Bon has done so well since the young man took over Shebolale. First, I think they need to do more.
They need to do better than they are doing right now.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, Emeka, thanks a million. We hope you'll be back in Abuja soon.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, Amar, let me give you the last word.
I was going to look at the marketing challenges. Sport 5 is in charge of all Confederation of African Football marketing, TV rights and all that. And I think, like Emeka rightly said, there's need for Bond to hook up. Sport 5 and CAF is doing a central marketing system. We hear they are demanding for about 500 million. I don't know how much, how we are able
Nigeria?
to cough out all that. And I think Emeka Odipo has rightly pointed it. Bond should team up, and most of our private stations like AIT and the rest who are interested in beaming this match on our national television should do a lot by linking up and ensuring that they come to terms with CAF, and CAF should also realize that Nigeria is one of their biggest market, and they cannot afford to also toy with Nigeria in a way.
Okay. In one sentence, what's your prediction?
I want to leave it like this. It's going to be tough. We may not be able to beat Ethiopia there. The highest or the worst we can get is a draw. I do not really see Ethiopians beating us. But if we are careless, if we become complacent, we might get a shocker. But because of the crucial nature of this game, because Keshi has come out to tell the boys the importance of this match, because the President of the Federal Republic has also visited the team in training in Addis Ababa to tell them the essence of winning the World Cup ticket, I think they are better gingered to make the nation proud. I don't see us disappointing the nation. The worst we can get is a draw.
Thank you, Amar.
Thank you very much for having me.
When we return, we'll look at the role of youths as we embark on a national dialogue. Don't go away. Well, in the last few weeks, Nigerians have been talking and talking and talking. Well, when the president talked about the national dialogue, he said that Nigerians like to talk. So we now want to bring all this talk together and make it weighty in the words of Mr. President. But a lot of segments of Nigerians are worried about this dialogue, whether this dialogue would cover their concerns. And one of those groups are the ones that our future depends on, the youths. I have in the studio Abdul Majid Abdullahi, President, National Youth Council of Nigeria. Abdul, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
So when the youths want to be heard as it concerns the national dialogue, in which areas do they think they're not being taken care of?
Thank you so much. The issue of youth inclusion in the socio-economic and political development of any country is no longer a matter of privilege. It is a matter of right. And when we're talking about Nigeria, in a country where the youths constitute above 60% of our country's population, then it means that we're discussing our future. And of course, if you're discussing my future and the future of the over 70 million people that I represent, I believe that in all ramifications and segments of that dialogue, it must be about us. We must be carried along from the beginning, right from the advisory committee that seeks to put in place modalities for what dialogue is going to be about. Because what we believe is that that committee is meant to fashion out a medium, a template that would guarantee an all-inclusive, highly participatory discussion about the future of Nigeria. If you're talking about the future of Nigeria, then you're talking about the youth of this country. So we must be part of it in every way.
Okay, if the youths, for instance, if we ask the youths, what do you want to bring to the table? In what areas would the youths want attention paid to?
We will be talking about the fact that the state of affairs in Nigeria over time is such that has refused to factor into critical consideration the importance and the imperative need of ensuring that youths are in the mainstream of this country's activity. You would want to agree with me that all the problems that we want to sit down today to discuss are problems that arose out of that exclusivist nature of the affairs of this country, which has led to so many problems that our generation presently today suffers from. Unemployment, lack of empowerment, lack of proportional representation, lack of the ability and opportunity to contribute to critical decision making about our today and the future that will be bequeathed to us, and a series of other issues. And so, of course, if young persons are given the opportunity, which of course is a right, to be on that table, we will be talking about the need to critically access and address those problems. Because for as long as those problems are not addressed, it means that Nigerian youth's womb, as I speak, are meant to be a huge demographic dividend to Nigeria. They might eventually translate or transform into a very, very serious demographic disaster. Because Nigeria will not benefit from our potentials, from our capacities, from our abilities. And then on the other hand, the series of aftermath effects and consequences of what goes on wrong in Nigeria has the youths at the receiving end. So if we're talking about a better Nigeria, if we're talking about a future of this country where all parties and interest groups will be carried along so that we can have a shared prosperity, then you're talking about young persons. Then you're talking about the issues that affect us. And we must be part of it.
I've heard people say that today's Nigerian youth lacks the capacity for the kind of responsibility you're asking for. Is this something that bothers you, or is this something you agree with or disagree with?
It does bother me. But at the same time, I want to strongly disagree with that assertion. It lacks validity. It lacks validity because in so many sectors where young persons have been given the opportunity to showcase their capacities, we're doing extremely well. Now, there's no how you can judge my capacity to contribute to nation building if at every point in time there is an opportunity to contribute to the cost of rebuilding this country. You ensure that I'm not involved. So how can you continue to stereotype me? How can you continue to profile Nigerian youths along the lines of incapacity, along the lines of inability, along the lines of lack of experience? Because experience itself is derived or gotten from the ability to participate, from the opportunity to be meaningfully involved. So if I'm not meaningfully involved, like the elites of today had that opportunity, especially in the early days of this country's independence. In fact, pre-independence, in the run-up, in the critical days of the struggle for independence, everybody who was part and parcel of that crusade and project were young persons. And they were able to deliver Nigeria as one of the fastest growing economies post-independence. They were young people. What opportunity did they have before that time to be part of nation building?
But that's part of the argument, because these were young people at that time who put their life, their intellect and everything to fight for the independence of Nigeria. They didn't wait for anybody to cook the food and just serve them. And that is what the youths of today are being accused of just this sense of entitlement, this sense of this belongs to me, this sense of I need help. Why are the youths not taking their their destiny in their hands, like our fathers did post and during independence?
Well, basically, I would want to say that the difference between the aspirations of young persons today and those of young persons who mostly were the founding fathers of this country is opportunity. They had the opportunity. Like we're venting our grievances today, they did vent their grievances. They advocated for inclusion. They advocated for the need for this country to be out of the debilitating influence of the colonial past.
But they didn't also have the debilitating sense of entitlement. You understand what I mean? Where people just sit down and believe that, oh, the government must do everything for me. My parents are going to do everything for me. You'll find out that a lot of youths are laid back. Is it not also harming the growth and opportunities which ordinarily would have been available to the average Nigerian youth?
You see, two critical points to that. It is on record that Nigerian youths today are at the forefront of a whole lot of advocacy for the re-engineering, the revitalization of this country. It is on record that in every sector where we have young persons at the aim of affair, in the little space of opportunity that we have, we're doing exceptionally well. It is also on record that the passion and commitment that young persons exude about the future of this country is unmatched. But one thing is critically important that we must look at. The exclusivist nature of the military rules that this country had to go through successively from the truncation of civil rule down to this moment is a process that does not guarantee inclusiveness. It is a process that is not embedded with a mechanism for an intergenerational succession. It is a process that did not factor into it the critical importance of mentoring. And when all of this does not happen in every political space, you find out that the generation next is not, put on the ground, given the required capacity to take charge. Look at advanced democracies. Young persons do not have to shout themselves hoarse. There's a system that factors them into the critical decision making of their countries right from when they're young. In secondary schools, in primary schools, they're already teaching them how to enact a bill, how to present a bill, right from while they're young. They're teaching them the critical steps that you need to take in advancing your interest. And the system is receptive of all of these things that they are teaching them. What we have in Nigeria is this lip service preaching of patriotism, the need for commitment, nationalism, and it stops there.
It's not matched by action.
It is not matched by action. And so that's what we're saying today. As much as Nigerian youths are excited about this opportunity to be able to come to the round table, to renegotiate the basis of our continued coexistence as a country, because we believe that that conference is not going to be about the unity of this country. I don't want to say that it is a settled issue, but I believe that there are a whole lot of issues, reasons, advantages that are there for Nigerians to reason along the fact that we must remain one country, indivisible, indissoluble, under God. But one thing that gives us this fear is the fact that, again, we're seeing signs that we'll be excluded from this very fundamental opportunity.
Okay, Abdul, you lead a very formidable youth organization, the National Youth Council of Nigeria.
Yeah.
As a body, have you sat down, or are you sitting down, or are you going to sit down to articulate, suggestions that you can say that this is all-encompassing, this was put together by the youths of Nigeria? Is anything like that happening right now?
I think basically you're just speaking our minds. Because two things we did from the very first day that this whole national dialogue thing came out. We commended the president for that forthrightness. We commended him because Nigerians need to talk. But secondly, when membership was rolled out, our excitement was short-lived because we expected that we were going to be represented. When we were not represented, we wrote a letter to the presidency protesting our non-inclusion. That's step number 2. Step number 3 is the fact that we have already put together our own committee. Our National Multi-Stakeholders Dialogue Advisory Committee has been put in place. It has been inaugurated last week because young persons will meet before this national dialogue. We are already planning to conduct town hall meetings in all the geopolitical zones in the country. it will cascade down to the state levels, where young persons, major stakeholders in the affairs of youth, will sit down to articulate our issues, our interests, our aspirations. We'll discuss across interest lines, harmonize our framework into one formidable, unanimous position paper, which we will be taking to that national dialogue. One thing we're sure to achieve is a situation whereby this time around, when you hear the youth issues being articulated and presented, it's going to be with the entire over 70 million Nigerian youths do hereby posit today our interests in the future of this country. So that's basically is what our multi-stakeholders dialogue intends to achieve.
Well, you've talked about lack of opportunity for youths. And some youths assume that this role, this leadership role, is going to just fall from heaven, on their shoulders, and that the older ones should just get out of the scene. Is there a synergy, between what you're doing and what the older ones are doing? Is there an effort, not just to, like we know the youths, they're full of energy, they're always ventilating, protesting. Is there a more responsible way that the youths of Nigeria are pushing this agenda that you have so much talked about?
Well, I want to say that individually and at the level of the Youth Council, we are a proponent of that maxim that believes in the fact that no amount of human progress rolls in on the wheels of inevitability. We do not believe that not anything would come our way in terms of the right to participate without we making critical efforts. And so, a whole lot of these issues that I have rolled out to you are some of the steps that we are taking. But beyond all of this, one thing that we are doing is the fact that we believe that if Nigeria will be great again, and of which we believe it will be great again, it has to prepare and provide for every sector, for every interest group, for every cleavage that can lay claim to being a part and parcel of Nigeria. And the only way you can get that to happen is by giving them an opportunity to discuss their interests. And so while government is already working on putting in place modalities, we're also putting in place modalities because we don't want to wait. We do not want to be caught by surprise. We don't want them to help us do our work. It is our responsibility. The National Youth Council is the umbrella body of all youth organizations in the country, and then it is the authentic voice of all Nigerian youths. So it means that it is our fundamental mandate and responsibility to ensure that the voices of young persons are heard and to serve as a go-between government and young persons.
So you're ready?
We are ready.
Thank you for coming on our program.
Thank you so much for having us.
And that's Frontline for today. Don't forget that we are still following up on that allegation of rape on our 2-year-old girl. Next Sunday, we'll continue the story. Thanks for watching. I am Obiora Ilo from Abuja, Nigeria.